ready to do an LAX delivery. I've gotten some questions from some of you guys on what's the best way to handle LAX deliveries, especially if some of you know LAX is a super hectic airport. It's probably comparable to like JFK, LaGuardia in New York, or Chicago O'Hare. You know, it's super hectic, it's always busy, and you just never really know what to expect when you go to LAX. So I'm actually in the midst of doing an LAX delivery for my Tesla Model S, which I'm sitting in right now. I'm actually at the Hawthorne supercharger getting it charged up to a full battery, you know, just to ensure the best, you know, service and rental experience for my guests. And the airport is just about 5 miles from here. So as soon as I'm done charging, I'm going to go meet my guest and hand off my car. So a lot of you have been asking, you know, what's the easiest way to handle an LAX delivery? So what I found out over the years of doing this is that there's a few things that you can do to really make it easy on your renters. You know, if you think about it, travel is already really hectic as it is. You know, you got to go to the airport, take a flight, get off your flight, you know, get your bags, get out. And especially a lot of people that do come to LAX, they're usually new. It's usually their first time in LA. And so the hecticness that some of us LA people are used to, they are not used to. So it is definitely really overwhelming. So some of the things that I do when these people book my cars for an LAX delivery is right off the bat, the first thing that I ask them is send me their flight number and their airlines so that on the day of the delivery, I can keep an eye on their flights. And that's really important because flights are always changing times, their arrival times, and you really want to keep a tight look on that so that you know exactly what time to arrive. So that's two key components that I always ask for no matter what: airline and flight number, so I can keep an eye on their flight so we can really pinpoint the delivery time, because the delivery time that renters set on their reservations is just sort of a ballpark, right? Kind of what they guesstimate when they'll be ready. So that's one thing. The other thing that I always tell them is when they land to shoot me a text as they're starting to make their way out of the airport so that I know that they're there and I can get ready to pull up to their terminal. Because as you know, at LAX, the cops there really won't let you wait at the terminal. So you can't really kind of loiter around like you might be able to at some of the smaller airports like Long Beach or John Wayne. You really have to be really precise on your timing so that you don't get kicked out or get a ticket, which has happened to me before. So you definitely don't want to make that mistake. And then the other thing I tell them is once they land and they get outside, to shoot me a text with the pillar letter and the pillar number. So every pillar, every terminal has a bunch of pillars at LAX, and they all have letters and numbers. And that way you know exactly where they're going to be standing. So you don't have to do too much of a guessing game. And then also for the renters, it really puts them at ease because they know, okay, I'm going to stand right here and she's going to pull up right here. So they know exactly kind of where to look out for you. And it really makes them feel comfortable because they know, you know, they know exactly where you're going to be delivering the car, and there's kind of no guessing like, oh, you know, where do we meet her? Where is she going to meet us with the car? So really simplifies the whole process. Now, the reason why I asked for the airlines and the flight number is because in my 3+ years of doing this so far, what I found is that flights are never arriving at the time that they're supposed to. Surprisingly, what I've seen is that 70% of the flights actually arrive earlier than they're supposed to, and I would say 20% arrive on time and maybe 10% are delayed. And so that's why I always check the flights at least a couple hours before the rental, and then right before I leave the house, I check it one more time so I know exactly when to leave, and then I check it on my way to the airport as well, just in case there were any delays. Now, there's a number of reasons why I do that, and one main reason is because no one really wants to spend any more time at an airport than they have to. And even as a host, I hate having to wait at airports because it's hectic. It's hectic and there's really nowhere to wait as it is. So, you know, you don't want to have to loiter around waiting for your renters to get there. So what I like to do is I like to really try to time it perfectly. So I check the flights, I know exactly how long it's going to take me there. I usually try to get there, you know, 2 to 3 minutes before I know that I have to be there, just so I'm there upon arrival and so that I can pull up right on time. So that's one of the main reasons. And then the second reason is also because Majority of the time, flights do arrive early. Like I said, I've noticed at LAX about 70% of the time, flights will actually come in early. And so you don't want your renters to have to wait because the airlines decided that they were going to be early and not at the given time that the renter had known. And you know, it really sucks. Usually when your flight lands early, you're excited because you got to your destination before you were supposed to, and you didn't have to sit on an airplane for as long as you thought you would have to. But then if you get there and your car's not there and you kind of have to wait till your Turo host gets there, you know, it doesn't really make for the best experience for the renter. So that's another reason why I always check the flights, and I continue to check, you know, 3 or 4 times until, you know, it's time to deliver the car. And then I do things like, you know, I've kind of figured out how long it takes people to get out of the airport. So usually I'll ask my renters if they have checked baggage or just carry-on. So if they just have carry-on bags, I usually estimate it takes them 15 to 20 minutes to get out of the airport once their flight has landed. So I arrive at the airport accordingly. If they do have checked bags, you can add on another 15 to 20 minutes to that time. So that's also important. That way, again, it minimizes the time that you have to wait and, you know, kind of loiter around at the airport, and it makes the transaction so smooth and so seamless, and it's just awesome service. You know, when a renter walks out of the airport and you can just pull right up to their terminal and hand off your card to them, I mean, it's the coolest thing. They're so happy and they're so excited, and they just can't really believe that a service like this exists. So it takes a little bit of work, but if you just add these like few elements into your rental process and working with your guests, I mean, it could just make for an awesome experience. So today I'll document kind of my Tesla delivery. Now, Tesla deliveries are a little bit different only because they're unique cars, and most people that rent these cars have never driven them before. So you do kind of have to do just a quick 5-minute tutorial on how the cars work and what the renters need to know. But what you'll see is right now I'm charging my Tesla because one of the things I like to do is I always hand over my cars washed, clean, sanitized inside and out, so that every time somebody drives one of my cars, it feels brand new, super clean. You know, they don't have to be grossed out about, you know, a rental car like most rental car places. And then for my Teslas in particular, I like to have a fully charged battery so that, you know, renters can get to point A to point B without having to really stop in the way, and they can kind of just continue with their trip without having to think about charging right off the bat of their trip starting. So stay tuned. I'll show you guys kind of how I hand off the car, and it's really easy. Once they land, I let them know to just have their license ready so I can check their ID really quick. You know, I take pictures beforehand and upload it to the Turo reservation so I don't have to do it at the airport. These are all things that you kind of want to account for because, you know, you don't really have the time to do it at the airport, and you just kind of never really know like what the situation at the airport's going to be. Sometimes it's super busy and sometimes it's not, but nonetheless, I always like to have this stuff done ahead of time so you don't take up more time from the renter and their trip. And then, so yeah, I just check their license, I give them a quick hello, just give them a basic rundown of the car really quickly, which I also do in the messages. So I just let them know like, hey, you know, the car is washed and clean, so please just bring it back the same way that you got it. Obviously, you know, no food or pets or smoking in the car, which are my policies for my vehicles. And then, you know, hand them off the key, I answer any questions they might have, and I get out of their hair and let them enjoy their vacation. So hope this video was informative to you guys. One last note, if you are doing LAX deliveries, I would highly recommend using the Waze traffic app because I found that that's the most accurate app for traffic going to LAX. And for many of you, if you've been to LAX, you know that every so often they'll do things like checkpoints, and when they do checkpoints, you know, they're checking every car that's entering the airport, and that really causes just a huge delay into getting into the airport. And so you really want to account for that time. So I always use Waze going into LAX because it is usually 99.9% of the time dead on to the minute of when you'll get there past the checkpoint, so it really accounts for all that. So stay tuned for more videos, guys. In all my Turo videos, I'll be covering everything about the Turo business. You know, I'll talk about the time that my car got stolen by a pimp, time that my Corvette was crashed, you know, how to handle claims, and just everything A to Z. You know, how I grew my Turo car business from my first smart car to now having, you know, over 8 cars and buying a new car every single month to add to my fleet. So stay tuned, guys. I think you'll definitely like the videos to come.